Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's Product School webinar. Thanks for joining us today. Just in case you didn't know, Product School offers product management certificates online and at over 20 campuses worldwide. On top of that, every week we offer some amazing local product management events and host online webinars, live streams, and Ask Me Anything sessions. Head over to productschool.com after this webinar to check them out.
Anil, and topic for today's webinar is new product innovation in B2B. A quick introduction about myself. My name is Anil Kumar, Senior Product Manager for Blockchain at Microsoft. I have a bachelor's in engineering from USC Bangalore. I started my career as an engineer at Lucent Technologies, moved on to Juniper Networks and then Cisco before pursuing MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. I got into product management post my MBA. I started at UNSS, building mobile application and a crowd brokerage platform. Moved on to Flipkart, built few e-commerce related products. Then I led new initiatives team at Visury, building products in ad tech space. And for last 4 years have been with Microsoft. The initial 3 years at Microsoft, I was involved in building and launching DataBox product line. A quick disclaimer, this presentation is based on my personal learnings, observations, and experiences, and it is not endorsed either by Microsoft, my present employer, or any other company. So a quick look at the agenda for today. We will start with introduction to B2B product management. I will not get into details over here, but I will provide you with good enough information for you to do some reading and research. Then we will spend more time on new product innovations. What is the entire process of ideation, conceptualization, defining MVP, doing previews, and finally launch. So the three key takeaways from today's topic will be what to expect as B2B PM, building new product, and pitfalls to avoid. So what are things a typical B2B PM deals with? So as a PM, there are some core capabilities that are expected out of you. That is to deal with engineering, design, and customers. You should be able to influence and understand the architecture and design aspects of engineering, guide them in the right direction. You need to have a design sense, build intuitive design workflows, and it should be usable, and at the same time it should be innovative. You should be able to work with customers. You should be able to empathize with them. You should be able to set expectations with customers, and then you should be able to dig in and get either requirements or feedback from customers. Then apart from this close set of teams that you will be working with, you will also be working with some of the internal teams like the partner product teams whom needs to build some sort of features or products for your product to work. So you need to influence them. Similarly, if it's a big organization, you have someone like an account manager or customer success manager. So these are the people who represent the existing set of customers. So you need to work with them to understand what are the requirements. How do you influence your existing set of customers to adopt your new product? Then you work with sales and pre-sales. Sales is responsible for getting customer to the table. Pre-sales will do the pitch, and finally sales is required to close the deal with the customer. Then you have to coordinate with other set of internal teams based on how big and how mature your organization and product is. You might end up doing some of these activities, or you would have a dedicated team which would help you achieve some of the things that are required. So it starts with marketing. So it can be as simple as putting up a presentation deck, or it can go up to as complex as arranging a conference and getting a slot in conference, doing PRs. All of those activities are what a typical marketing is involved in. Then you have to work with finance. It can be related to how do you price your product, to how do you get your resources, right? All of that is dealt by the finance team. Then you have legal, right? From naming your product to ensuring you have all the legal things sorted out before you can launch the product or expand your product to some of the new regions or countries or states. All of that needs some legal clearance, so you have to work with legal. Then finally, your product might not be solving the customer's end-to-end solution. So you might be working with someone outside your entire organization who is filling in gaps at this point of time. So you need to engage with them. This can be SIs and ISVs, or this can be data partners or someone else who is building the end-to-end solution. Now, getting into ideation itself. So once you have some sort of an idea, then you have to qualify whether this idea makes sense. So the first level of qualification is to understand if there is an alignment in terms of whether this idea makes sense for your organization or your business unit or your team based on how big and matured your organization is. Then you also have to understand how this idea aligns to the goals that your team is mandated to. If your team is dealing with something, you totally come up with something else as an idea, it might not be very appealing for your leadership team to sponsor that idea. Then you have to look at what is your idea going to get built on, what is the IP based on which you are going to build this. If you say I'm going to recruit like 10 new researchers, they would come up with an IP or a patent based on which I will build a product. That's not going to work for you. It's not going to make a cut. So your idea pretty much will get shot down. So you need to ensure you have good alignment for the idea that you are proposing. Next, you have to do an validation. Validation is you have to validate whether this idea makes sense. So you typically draft your hypothesis, go back to customers and see whether your hypothesis holds good or not. Then you have to do your research, try to get some data insights. So this can be the surveys that you do along with your customer interactions, or it can be based on some of the telemetry data that you already have through which you are trying to get the data insights. It would also help if you can get your hands on some of the market research, or if a compete already has a similar product or a substitute product, even that would help in your validation. Then finally, once you have the idea, then you have to get a buy-in. So first of all, you start with a rubber duck, which is you test your ideas with someone um, who can be very honest with you, tell it on your face whether it makes sense or not. It would be always good to have an engineer as a buddy who can help you validate some of the engineering, architecture, and design, the assumptions that you have made, whether they hold good or not. Then you should be able to sell your idea to your manager. If you're not able to sell it to your manager, you would not be able to sell it to anyone. Um, so that's pretty much your first gate that you have to pass. Then your manager might not be the guy who would get you the resources that you need. So you need to identify, or you can take help from your manager in order to identify who is the influencer who can get you the resources that you want to build this product. So the very next question that I get asked is, where does this idea come from? So I classify it as encounters and mandates. Encounters is where you have first-hand experience, wherein during your interactions with customers or field, you would have come across this as the gaps, and this is something that your current existing products do not solve, or even some of the compete products might not be able to solve. So you have the first-hand information why this gap and how it can be filled. Then you have mandates. So mandates are where one of your executives from the leadership team comes in and says, "Hey, we have to build this product." Um, so one of the suggestions here is, do not take it at the face value. Just because it came from a executive in the leadership team, it does not mean it has been qualified. So in most cases, you are expected to do the groundwork, crunch the numbers, and make a case to say whether it makes sense to build this product or not. It can also happen in cases wherein you have been hired to build a product which someone has already mandated, but still it would be in your best interest to qualify and make a case for your own satisfactory to say whether it makes sense for you to build such a product or not. Then the next set of classification I typically do for ideation is painkillers and diagnostics. Painkillers where your customers pretty much know, hey, this is the problem that I have, I want this solution and I want it now. Diagnostic is where Um, Either customers do not realize they have a problem, or it's not critical, it's not bothering them at this point of time, or they have made an inherent assumption that this problem can't be solved. Um, it can also happen that the technologies which were available at that point of time, it was not feasible, but because of latest technology that you are having or you have come across, you would be able to address some of those issues. So those are critically ideas that would fall into diagnostics. So the next decision that needs to be made is, should it be a feature or a product? So there are few business related questions and few technical related questions that you need to ask yourself before putting up a business case. So to start with, in terms of business, you need to answer, is the target customer segment the same as the product that you already have, or is it very different? Similarly, is the user persona that who will be using this product, for whom the idea that you have, is it going to cater to the same user persona, or is it different? Similarly, is there a customer segment who would be interested in only the features that you have identified as part of this idea, or do they need something else as a base as well? Then you need to evaluate, is this big enough in terms of value to the customer and revenue to the business, um, for you to invest. Then you have technical questions, which is like, what is the stack overlap and how much is it unique? What is the architecture overlap and how much is unique for the product that you are proposing? Be it in terms of the security, the scale requirements, or any other things. If it has a unique requirements wherein it substantiate for it to be put up as a standalone product, then that is the case that you have to make. What is the technical debt on account of maintenance? If the new product that you're proposing has a lot of overlap with an existing product, then you need to understand the technical debt that it will create in terms of, you have to maintain, you have to push the same fixes into two different uh, code base. Similarly, what is the effort and time impact? So if you are looking for a very short time to market that you are targeting, then typically it would make more sense for you to go with it as a feature instead of a full-fledged product. Because for a full-fledged product, there are predefined process and checks in place within your organization, which you have to qualify, and that takes time. So you might not be able to reach the time to market that you're looking for if you want to build a new product altogether. Then, be it a feature or a product, all your hypotheses need to validate these three key areas. One, the problem. Does this problem really exist? Is this a critical problem customer is looking for to get solved? Then, is there a big enough market for it? So if you go build a solution, are there enough customers? Is this a problem that is faced and it's critical only for few handful of customers, or is it for 80% of all such customers believe this to be a critical problem? Then the value. What is the value a customer would realize from you solving this problem with your solution? Because a part of this value is what customer would be willing to pay you back as a price for this product. So a combination of all these three is what constitutes a good ROI for the product, and your hypothesis needs to touch upon all these three aspects. Then one more thing that you have to substantiate as part of your business case, especially in big companies, is the decision of, why can't you partner with someone who has a similar solution? Why can't you go right out buy someone who has a similar solution so that you get a head start and the investment that is required is less? Finally, if these two do not work out, then you typically go into building your solution ground up. So once you have put up this business case, then you get into the details of the conceptualization. So based on your organization size, maturity, and the process that is involved, The business case itself can be just like 3 slides, or it can be an elaborate 20-page document wherein you detail out all the aspects of the product and the value and the market and compete all those things. Then coming to the conceptualization is where you define the problem and what is the solution, and finally value proposition. This is what typically would go into your detailed business case. So what is the problem? So you start with scenario saying that, hey, there are 3 different scenarios or 5 different scenarios, A, B, C. So if we had to solve this with our solution, this would get converted into features. These features, if we have to solve, then we need certain backend architecture and design with all these components within that. Then this is how the user flow in terms of mockups or user design would show up. Finally, you have a story out of this. So this is your typical business case. Then, as a part of your business case proposal, you might ask for, say, 15-member engineering team. What you might end up getting is only a 5-member engineering team for you to build this product. So that is where you have to know what is the minimum viable product, what is that you can launch with, and validate this. So you have your laundry list of features, which are the user stories, and mapping them to the features. So you have to do your first level of prioritization. So the first level would have what are the must-haves, what is the minimum set of features and user flows that are required for customer to use it as an end-to-end product and realize value out of it. So that constitutes the must-have. Then the parity. It can be parity with the compete product that's already out there, or it can be parity with the substitute products that are already out there, or it's even the parity with what customer is using as the next best alternative today. Then what's the differentiation? So how do you stand differentiated in the market with this solution? Is it something that someone else can launch and they can also build the solution as you have built within a month or 3 months in time? So the next one is the engineering prioritization. So what we dealt with till now is the business prioritization. Next one is engineering, wherein you have to do the value and effort for each of the feature dependencies. So say for example, you have to build a feature 3, which has dependency on feature 1 and 2 being available, which means you have to take a holistic look and understand what are the dependencies. So what is the feature that I can go out with? Similarly, timelines. So everything can be built if you have enough resources and time. So understanding what are the timelines by which you have to release this product or to validate it in market is one of the constraints that you have to put in, and take a hard look at what are the features which can make it by that time. So at this point, you have your MVP, minimum viable product, defined. So you go again to our customers to validate and see if the MVP resonates with customers. Would they be able to use this product and be able to realize some value just on the proposal? Based on this, you would realize what is the next set of things that customer will need to have for them to make full use of this product. So that is what is the information that go in to your roadmap. So once you have your product MVP built, then you typically get into alpha, beta, or what is called as preview stages. So this preview stage itself in a B2B case can span from a few weeks to about 6 months or even a year. So what's the objective or goal of a preview? From the organization building the product perspective, it's to understand what is the product market fit. So is there the market that was assumed, that does that still exist? Is this the right product to address the problem? And are you using the right set of technology to solve that problem? Then who is the right customer for your preview? So I generally use 3 criteria to identify the customers. One is invested. This product, this problem should be critical for someone to get solved. So this is the person or this is the organization which is going to use your product for their business, and you would get a honest feedback. Then the organization that you work with or customer that you work with should be recognizable. The moment you spell out this is the customer that you're working with, the next potential customer should be able to relate and understand what is the use case, and they should be able to recognize the customer. Then it should be referenceable. So the customer that you are working with should be ready to get on stage with you. You should be able to get good PRs with them. They should be ready to publish the case study with you as to how they realized value from your product. Then how many customers do we need to have for a preview? So this again goes back to what is that you're looking for as part of your launch. The three aspects that you have to take care of is understand if you are able to meet the scale requirements. You can get those validated. You have diversified set of customers. You do not want to have 10 customers, all of them using same set of features, and who would not use the next set of features that you have built in. Right. So you have to have a diversified set of customers who represent the complete achievable market that you are looking for. Then the solution that you have built should be easily repeatable. Do not customize your product to fit in the needs of your preview customers. If you do so, then the product might look very successful during preview, but post preview would not have any takers. So you need to ensure it's repeatable. What metrics do you want to measure? Again, it differs from product to product, but it would mainly be in three broad areas. One is the usage. Have customers used all the features of your product? Is that usage good enough for you to evaluate all the cases have been covered? Then stability of your code base. Uh, have every flow been addressed? Have you vetted out? Have you addressed it? Does it reach the scale that is required, the performance that is required, or that has been validated? Finally, have the customer realize the value out of this product that it was promised? So you would define metrics on each of these areas and then take a call. So what constitutes success or exit from preview? It goes back to your objective, and it goes back to certain threshold numbers that you associate for the metrics that you have defined in the previous step, which is related to usage, stability, and value. Finally, why products fail? So this is based on the research that was done by Autopsy, wherein they try to understand what the top 10 reasons for startups to fail. So the one of the biggest is the no market need, outcompeted, then poor team. Now coming to B2B product failures and big enterprises and my learnings out of it. So here are the five major causes that I see. The first and foremost is internal. So a lot of time it's the misalignment because of which the products get killed, or it's one of the mandate related products wherein either because the leader moved out or something else happened. This someone had not verified the need for this product itself. This would lead to the failures. And again, it can also be a case wherein you have not been able to sell it to your sales. Sales on the field does not understand what is the incentive for them in selling this product. So you have to address those internal issues for your product to succeed. Then customers are not able to realize the value. Either you promised too much and delivered too less, or you delivered it too late. So customers are not able to realize the value that you had initially promised. Then you have built a product which is too niche, or it's just a me too. So you thought the total achievable market is about 1,000 odd customers, but what you realize down the line is it's only applicable for 50 of them or 10 of them. Then it does not make sense. So your product gets killed. Similarly, if it becomes a me too product without much differentiation, without much IP, then it becomes a price war. So there again, you end up losing the product. The product would get killed. Then lacks repeatability. So you built a product, you were so involved in the preview, you pretty much tailored it for your preview customers. Now, the next set of customers that you are getting are having a very different requirements from what you had from your preview customers. So your solution is not able to scale, your product is not able to scale, so it leads to failure. then time to market. This is the single most thing that most of them fail because. So time to market, if you start a product and if it goes on for a year wherein three other new players have introduced their products into market, then your product is destined to fail. In the enterprise world, the cost of switching is too high. So if you are not among the first three or four organizations to release the product, then the market that you will be left with is very small for you to be a significant player, for you to make revenue out of it. So once the customer has identified and starts using a product, it's very hard for customer to make a switch. The switching costs are too high in enterprise world. So the learnings, be customer driven and not executive driven. Always validate whether it makes sense for you to build the product or not. Then accept and kill features. This is one of the most thing the most thing that I have seen in most of the product teams. The product managers or someone in the team believes they have a super idea which needs to be built, just to realize this is not something that is required by customers, or it's too expensive for engineering to build it. By just hanging on to that particular feature, you are risking your product. So be ready to accept this is not a feature that is required by your customers or it's too difficult to implement. So accept and kill features for the sake of your product. Talk to customers you want and not ones you have. So if you want honest feedback, if you want honest opinions about your product, you need to talk to customers whom you want to use this product. If you go to customers that you already have, they would provide very superficial feedback, which is of not much use. Have time-based evaluation. Be upfront in defining what is the objective, what is the key result, what are the milestones that you want to achieve as part of your initial product development. I have seen a lot of teams which go on building the product and they keep on pivoting every 3 or 2 months, and they end up spending a year before they release a product which is nowhere. They would have tried and targeted for 10 different markets and it would have failed. So have a very time-based evaluation for your product. Then start small, iterate instead of trying to make it complete and perfect. So especially in the big organizations, you have a long list of process that you have to satisfy before you go on building a product. So the initial investment for building your MVP itself is too expensive, and because of the cost that has gone in to build that, I have seen some of the teams just push it to production or just push it to the launch, even though they completely know that it does not make sense. It is not making the right noise in preview, but it might still go on to do the final launch. So avoid that as much as possible. Start small with whatever is the minimal set, iterate, get the feedback from the customer, and be it customer driven product development. Then one of the other things that I've heard a lot is you need to always first in the market. Believe me, it's not true. You need to learn from others. Being first is not always advantageous. In fact, it might be disadvantageous because you are experimenting and someone is learning from your experiments. So it's good to be first, but it's better to be second. Finally, once you have gone through all this, then you are finally ready for launch. This is the checklist of items that you need to have for your launch. One, repeated referenceable customers who has realized the value from your product. Your product is scalable and is stable. You have a very well defined roadmap, a clear vision, which your field teams understand, which you are setting the right expectation with your customers. Then your support is trained. You have your telemetry in place, which are the basic feedback mechanisms that you would have. During preview, you pretty much work with each of these customers, so you get your feedback directly. But as you scale, you would not be able to do it. So you need to have your feedback loop in place. Then put a very detailed documentation. At the same point of time, make it easy for someone to read and understand. So that's how you can reduce the friction in onboarding. Then revenue models. So the suggestion here is start charging your customers during preview. So along with validating your features, you should also start validating the value they are able to realize out of your products and how much are they willing to pay you as a part of that value realization. So if you have done good work in terms of the validation of the value, by the time you reach launch, you would have a good revenue model, you would have a good sense of what is the costs that you would incur in building this solution and operating this solution, and what is the revenue model. So you should be in the place to put a good TCO and a good ROI model for the customers to make use of it. Then legal. Start early with legal, right from the name. Have a detailed discussion with legal. You need to make them understand what are the few areas where you believe things can go wrong and how do you want to get protected yourself against that. And have the legal work for you and put those checks and balances in place. You do not want to build your product and wait for legal clearance after 6 months, waiting for about 2 months just for legal clearance. Start early, ensure you have all the legal clearances required a well ahead of time. Finally, sell it to your sales. So ensure your field, which includes the marketing, sales, and pre-sales, all these teams are aware of this product. They understand in and out of the product. They are able to sell this product to the end customers. They realize what is the value and they are willing to sell your product. So that's it for today. Thank you. You can reach me on LinkedIn, Sunil Sanchi. Thank you.